Guys, so today we're going to take a look at the new Anycubic Mono. So it is a resin printer, actually just arrived, so we'll get to the unboxing now so that we can continue on with other projects. So let's firstly have a look at what is in the box. So I already have the Photon S, and it's not a bad little resin printer for the price. I got some really good prints out of it, so it'll be interesting to see the difference between this and the slight changes that have been made with the rail and everything like that to what the Photon and Photon S was. So as usual, it comes quite well packaged. On the very top there's a bit of cardboard, and then you've got your levelling paper. There we go. This paper can be used for levelling. We have our Photon Mono assembly instructions, multi-linkers. There you go. We have a box. In this, a spatula with a wooden handle. That's cool, I like that. We also have a plastic spatula. Filters, gloves, USB, which will have all the stuff that we need. So that'll probably have the printing software and some test projects. Now, this is the first thing I've already noticed, is a difference in power supply. So the Photon actually had a lock power supply, and then you would obviously run like a computer lead into that and then it'll come out. So it's good to see that it's actually just one thing now. I actually like that. That's heavy. A face mask, the warranty card, and of course your little Allen keys and everything like that. No spares. So hopefully, with the Photon, it came with a few spare screws and stuff like that, especially for the bat. So again, comes very well packaged. So let's just drop this down here for a second. I'll try and pull it out. Right. There we go. There we have it. So what I might do now is I might try and just adjust the camera so you guys can get a better view. Okay, so as you can see, it is very well packed. As usual, wouldn't expect anything else from them. They do seem to put a lot of packaging in, and there's even packaging in the top of this. Now, there we go. Styrene everywhere. Alright, so what do we got in here? So in this one, which is was inside the covering of our vat, it's actually a plastic vat. So this is the one from the Anycubic, which is actually a cast vat, and now it's gone to a plastic vat. It's got a nice little pour on it, which is a bit better than the cast one, but I don't know, I guess we'll see. It's got, on the inside, it's got 140, 180, 220, and max. You can really see it in there, but it's right in there. Take a closer look maybe a bit later. Now we have our fuel plate. Different than on the Photon. The Photon, it sort of just screws on and then it just has a screw on the top. So it looks like to adjust this one, you've got the 4 Allen keys. Sits in there. More packaging to come off. Alright, let's lift this right out of here now. It's actually not that heavy. I don't know why I'm making noises. Anyway. Alright, so yeah, it's pretty light. Nothing overly special about it. Power on the back. A few marks, not interesting anyway. Power on the back. On off switch, USB. Place for a fan at the bottom, but there's no fan there. I can't actually see. So on the Photon, which is behind me, there's a little fan that sits here. Probably grab it, and it exhausts some of the smell out and stuff like that. And there's a fan that I've got on the back of mine, in the bottom as well. So interesting to see that. Doesn't seem to. Okay. I guess we'll have to see how that goes. And then obviously this is our mount. So they've gone with, so unlike on the Photon where it sort of sits in grooves and goes up and down, they've actually gone with a rail on this one, which is good. A linear or a radial. Everything looks a bit betterly mounted, but I'm a bit disappointed already by the lack of fan, lack of exhaust. So I guess we'll see how we go with that. So that's, yeah. Alright, so let's plug it in and start moving some stuff around so that we can start putting it together. Should probably follow instructions. Alright, so power's on. Just let me move the table while I was doing that. Okay, so now switch it on. Let's see what do we see. Let's get rid of the sticky stuff. Oh, it's very sensitive. We're gonna lift the stuff on. Alright, so let's get back home. So that's the home screen. You got your print. Obviously there's nothing in there at the moment. System. You can select your language. So you can select language, service, where you want to get it serviced, info, so about the version and everything, tools, you can move, which is what we want to do now. So we'll move it up quite a fair way. Try and get the silver plate on and do the leveling. So that's doing that. We can do the detection, the 0. So that's where we're going to work in with at the moment. So what does it actually say in these instructions? Let's have a look. Not a huge amount, really. Assemble, unpack and remove all accessories when plug power term is switched on. Raise the dead axis by 10mm. Done. Loosen the 4 screws. Install. Yeah. So everything is pretty much basic. I just read you the whole instruction. That was it. That was the whole instructions. So let's get our Allen keys out now. And I guess it'll be this one. kind of already loose, but that's fine. So it says it does actually say to loosen the 4 screws on the printing, install and secure the printing platform. And then that's as far as it goes. So there's no there's nothing going. That opens up a bit more, but there we go. Okay. So step 5, place the leveling paper on the curing screen. Then click on home touchscreen. Yeah, that's all. Pretty basic so far. I like doing stuff on. Alright, so we have there. If it sits now, well, that's a bit disappointing. Alright, so it says to hit the home screen. So we will go. Just hit that out there for now. We will go to move and home. Okay, so the good thing about this is we don't get left and right swivel, unlike on the Photon, where it was on like a ball mount and it adjusts just about anywhere it went. So it's pretty tight and it's pretty flat there. So I'll just tighten it up there. So normally what I would do is I actually like to lower it to where it's quite flat up against the curing screen, so that way I know for a fact that it's 100% flat. But we'll stick with their instructions because the idea is that I want to know if I can just grab this thing and print. Make sure that they're all reasonably tight. Yeah. Alright, so we can't move anything now. So let's see what we say. Wait for Z-axis to descend and then it will stop automatically. Finger press on top of the platform gently and tighten the 4 screws to the platform. So I can't actually move it. Oh, I guess I can if I pull it hard enough, but to me that seems a bit tight, but it actually says not to do anything further. Return to tools menu, click 0. So it's saying that should be our home. So yeah, Z equals 0, enter. Alright, that'll rise the platform. So when you go through it, you hit the Z equals the home, hit enter, and then unlike on the Photon, it comes up with another option to say move the Z axis now. So it'll actually automatically raise it so you don't have to sit there and press the buttons. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's it. So from here, it says step 7, click detection on the screen yet. So obviously it just wants us to check that the light works. So hit detection, click on, there's 3 options. This one here should be just like an internal little square. Whoop. And it should do, see how the internal square is blacked out. Yeah, it seems to work. Do the next one. Slightly bigger. That's more square instead of rectangular. Seems to work. And full screen. So all that works quite well. What if I get a free tan while I'm doing that? Just joking, that's going to happen. So now we have the vat. So a few marks in it, but it should be alright. I'm interested by the fact that they've gone to a plastic vat. I guess it means we can 3D print them a lot easier. And obviously that'll sit in there just like that. Okay, so resin. Here we have some Anycubic 3D printing UV sensitive resin. It's just a basic resin in clear. Shake. Put my mask on for this. You know, if you're pretty sensitive with your smell, you probably should have a mask on and gloves and everything when working with this. You really don't want it on your skin. So it should be alright for this. I'm not going to go too much with this. I'll just go to the second line. Go third. Set that off over there. That's it for a second. Just put the vat down. Okay, so the vat's in. Everything is in. Followed the instructions as it said. 2. Printing 3D models. So now giving us instructions on printing the 3D models. Let's put this around the right way so you can set Anycubic. Alright, that's it. Now we're ready to print. So let's see what we can do here. I might bring the camera a little bit closer for this one and work from the other side. Just give me a second here. Okay, so I've changed it around a little bit and I've jumped around to the other side. Let's bring this a little bit closer. Hopefully we can see. Alright, so we've already done all that. We've already done the detection. So now we're going to go to print. And it looks like I've got 2 test prints. I don't know what either of them are because I haven't actually brought them up. So let's start with let's just go straight for that one. So, okay, so that's its actual testing whether everything is in the right place and everything's looking all good, or if it isn't. So I'll just bring you a little closer to that. So there we go. So as you can see, it comes with the 2 test prints. That one there's the general one with the Anycubic in the middle. Comes with the Photon as well. But this one here. So I think this is the one that sort of levels everything and has a look at how it's all working, whether we've got it level, whether we're right or not. So we'll hit play on that. And here it will now do its auto home. So we'll go down. Ooh, got a few bubbles there. Should rest, it's okay. So if I take the lid off now, it'll actually stop and you'll get an alarm. So we're not going to do that. And there we go. So it's starting. So that's going to be 1 hour and 6 minutes. So it actually says the 1 hour 6 minutes down there, what layer it's doing, and the printer. So nothing much has changed there. So we will leave that now for an hour or so and come back to it. So we're about halfway now. It's still doing its thing. And you might be able to hear it pop off. You sort of hear it peel off the FEP film. So we got around about half an hour I think left. Yeah, so 26 minutes left. 57%. I'm also going to show you what happens if I lift the door off. Try to do this one-handed and it's not working. So see that? So it pauses it, says door open, pause to print, close the door again, and it continues. So that's what I was saying before, if you lift the actual cover off, it will actually stop the print. So I guess we'll find out if that does any damage as well. Okay, so printing is now finished and it's automatically raised to the top. So we'll take the lid off and have a look. Alright, so as I said, it's fully completed. So we have the wash and cure here, so we're going to put that to the test. So we'll get our gloves out, get quite a few pairs of gloves. Over there somewhere. Put our gloves on, and let's see how it all actually looks. Alright, take that off. So it's got a little bit of dripping. See if I can get it just a bit closer to you guys without making too much mess. So there we go. So it actually looks really good. All the pins are on point, the circles, the squares, and everything. It actually looks relatively clean. It looks like there's a few points up through here where the pins haven't worked. But all in all, I'm actually pretty happy with that. It means that it's probably just slightly off in that left corner there. But apart from that, all the detail is still there. It's very, very slight. And the Anycubic writing, which is just in there on each. Let's come out. Alright, so it looks pretty good. Alright, so let's put it into the wash and cure. So now, this is the interesting part. So, there is no actual screw there, so we have to borrow it from the actual machine. Try not to drop it anyway. I should move the back, but okay. So that way now we can not do what we need it to do. So that's interesting because it's got nowhere to screw. So there's no actual way to screw it in. So that's a bit disappointing. So that's actually an interesting thing because this would normally screw in on the previous model. So what we'll do is I'm just going to pause the video for a sec because I'm going to go get the Photon mount. Okay, so this is the Anycubic Photon or the Photon S, and as you can see, if I mount that in there, I can then screw it down, and it doesn't actually matter which one I use, I can screw it down. So the issue is that this has no actual mounting point. So what it's hoping is that it can just sort of rest there, which I don't really like. So we'll see. So if I was to say sit that like that, yeah, see? That is not cool at all. I do not like that at all. Because that can just slide off. So that is in isopropyl alcohol, and there's nothing else I can do about that. So really, with this, the wash and cure is almost redundant. Unless you make a bracket or we put it on the basket. So that's probably the only other option that we've got right now, is to get it to sit maybe on top of the basket. But again, we don't really want that because, yeah, I'm not a fan. So we can sit it in there, so just because I don't want it moving around too much, so what I've done is I've actually just sat it in the thing, which means now we're putting the whole plate into the isopropyl alcohol. So I'm not a fan of that at all. Either I'm missing something, but yeah, there's no other way to do it because the screw screws into the actual plate, not the mount. So I might have to look at making something for that. Alright, so I'll take these off now so I can start pushing things without putting resin everywhere because I've just spread resin all over my gloves. Chuck that over there. Alright, so it's in the wash and cure. So we'll chuck the lid on. And I think I plugged it in, yep. So with the wash and cure, the first mode it will switch to is cure. So just hit the settings, which will change it to wash, set the timer to 6 minutes, and then start. So then what will happen is the one down the bottom will spin, the propeller, and it'll form like a whirlwind type effect, and that'll wash, give it a good wash. I am very intrigued by the way that it mounts in the wash and cure, because there's for it to not mount the way that it's designed is, to me, is quite ridiculous. Like, I understand that it's screwing into the plate, but if that is the case, then what really should have happened is there should have been a plate that they provide that has the screw option. So that's actually really disappointing. Alright, so we'll let that go for a few minutes and then we'll come back and take a look at it a bit later. So the washing has now finished, and on there for now. Alright, so you could always take the model off the plate and then wash it, but I also realised that one thing didn't print at all, which means the back left is definitely out, so we'll need to look at levelling. But that's odd that it printed this one but not that back one, so I'll have a look in the resin in a minute. But you can see on the ends of the lines here, so it's only got isopropyl alcohol, so we can touch it now. So we have number 5 on the top, which we can see. We can see the Anycubic writing quite clear. There's like a checkered pattern at the end here, and an X on the other end. Yeah. So all in all, it looks okay. So what we'll do now is let's see how easy, if I can find it up with everything, it is to actually get it off the plate. So it comes with a plastic and a metal scraper, and I don't think that's really going to do the trick right now. That will just break. So you can see it's chipping away, so that's not going to work. So let's pull out the serious tools. Probably should be doing this over the there we go. So that actually comes off quite easily. So there's one. There's one part off. So just going to sit it onto the actual cure plate for now. What you want to do as well is you want to wash off the, actually comes off really well. We want to wash off any of the resin, not the resin, sorry, the isopropyl alcohol. So you can see where it was sitting, it's really off a bit, so just give that a quick scrape just to make sure that all the stuff is off. And that's it, there we go. So I'm not going to sit that back in there yet, just due to the fact that I don't really want to cross-contaminate the resin that's in there. Just grab some handy dandy toilet paper, just to give that a bit of a wipe to get rid of anything that's on there and keep it nice and clean. Alright, so what we'll do now is we will quickly give these pieces a bit of a clean, but I'll show you close up what it looks like. So I don't know if you can see it, but basically there's all these little pins just here. It's like a brush, it's quite soft to touch too. I think they actually move, which is pretty cool. And then you've got the angles, and you're about 45, a nice little round circle here. And these pins here, so they're different shapes. So this one here is round, that one's a cone. This one here has thicker circles on top of it. So it's thin at the bottom, thicker at the top. That there looks like it's got a checkered pattern at the end. There's a checkered pattern here. Again, it's the same because obviously they're different. They're the same prints. It looks like what's supposed to be like a nut type thing with a weird hole in the middle, I guess. The number 5 came out quite nicely. There's a few little lines and little holes into the center there, a few different lines in there. And then Anycubic came out really, really nicely there. So let's just see if this will break apart. Yeah, it breaks apart quite easily. And then there's just one of them. And as you can see where it actually grabs at the bottom. So it's actually really good. And even just across here. So that's the advantage to a resin printer, is obviously because the bridging is quite easy because it's got 2 points. When it, using those 2 points, when it actually uses the curing light or the UV light, it'll just make a solid piece go from there to there. So it's not running it, and it's quite good. So that's where you can get a nice hole effect in there. Alright, so let's go give these a wash and then we'll put them to the cure.
Yeah.
Alright, so we've now washed and given it a quick blow. I haven't gone too crazy with sort of getting all the stuff off. So I'll show you what happens when you leave the water on it as well. So now what we need to do is we need to change it to cure. Throw the lid back on. And we'll leave it on for 6 minutes and hit start. So now, as you can see, the UV lights are now lighting it all up and are hardening it. Now, if I take the lid off, we get an alarm and it stops working. So there's like it works off using this little sticker here. It's actually got it works off a sensor in there. So not 100% sure if it works off a reflection or if it is actually legitimately censored, but basically when you get that to a certain point, it picks up on it and goes, oh, hang on a sec, something's moved and we need to stop. So while that's also doing that, we'll chuck that over there. We're going to have a look at that. So it did print slightly off angle because I didn't bother leveling the actual machine or anything, but there's nothing in the vat. So you can see here where it's failed. So what needs to happen now is obviously I need to drain this out and then get that off, and then I can print again. So what that shows me is that it wasn't completely level. So one of two things: either the machine itself isn't quite level and the way the liquid is sitting is out, but it generally shouldn't cause that issue if it's still getting the liquid there, or the resin. So what will normally be the case is that this plate itself, either it hasn't stuck to it or it's not actually level. So we did exactly what we did in the instructions, and fingerprints are all over that now because I've been painting as well. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to lower it back down and we'll level it the way that I would normally level it. So we'll sit that there, bit of a hair on there. I might just give that a quick wipe. Pass the proper alcohol. Get some of that off. Alright, just make sure the the bed's clear now. So a little bit. So all in all, I'm a little disappointed in a couple of things. I like this overall, but I would have preferred that we could have still mounted it the same way onto the wash and cure. So your choices are obviously now either take it off the plate and put it into the basket to be washed, or do what I did and just drop the whole thing in there, which probably isn't the best thing for this. I don't think we want to do that too often, but in this case it's just quick and easy. Okay, so let's go back to doing this another level. So we'll go to tools, set it. Oh, that's right, sorry, I might have hit the wrong button there. So we're going to move Z. We're going to hit the home button again. Click to lower. Takes a little bit of time. And then it'll touch, it'll go up, and then it'll come back down. Okay. So it feels alright. It feels maybe that back left is a bit higher, but I can't really pull in the other area. So it looks like that this is actually high, so maybe that's a little too low. And that's what I meant by before, that I didn't like the fact that it felt so tight. So what we're going to do is, that's the wrong one, where did I put the other one? That's the one I'm after. So we're going to loosen this off. I think, and we still got a little bit of room here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just push down a little bit, just to make it, so push down on that side to make it nice and square, and then tighten it up on this side. Shouldn't move too much on this side now because we're tightening the other side. We don't really got enough pressure to cause that action, but there we go. So still, it's not quite where I'd like it, but I'll loosen it up a bit more. That right corner is very easy to move, but the left corner isn't. So it's not the. As you can see here, with that knife, so now we'll put that down there. Alright, and at the same time, our curing station is now finished. So, finish this one off. Yeah. Not a big fan of the way that is. I'm not trying to see if we can actually lift this on a little bit. What I would normally do on the old machine, and I'm trying to get it to the way that they were saying, is I would have all this loose, and then I would lower it until I couldn't move any of the paper anywhere. But this one's a little different because of the way that it sort of sits in there. So what we'll do is we'll go, just lower it a little bit more. To try to get it to a little bit square up. Alright, so just down on that side and semi-tight on this side. That's a bit better. There we go. And there we go. That's much better. Okay, we can square under there. And it's not quite thin. It's like every time I do this side up, it locks this side. So try that. A bit better, but still not quite where we want it. Yeah, this isn't as easy to do actually. That there needs to be there. Let's tighten that right up there now, because that's actually right. So that's, and see that pops straight up. Interesting. Right, let's try your hand again. Right, so now that's solidly down. So what it then says is to press down on the plate. If I press that, that's obviously going to lock in there. So you want to actually be pressing the plate. And then it says to tighten it in the instructions. Tighten this out there. Yeah, that back left corner is not interested in doing any of what I want it to do. Makes this a little more interesting. There we go. I still can't quite get it to tie it over. Alright. Now it's just going. That's going there. Yeah, that's really high, and this one's not. So it's like it's locked this way now. So this actually is not easy to do, apparently. That's where we went, right there. So I am right, it is just not quite. Right down. I want to know if maybe the fold in the paper, because it's coming up over this lip here, is actually causing the issue. So just semi-tighten that, not enough to. So now we're leveling it to the actual curing pad. I'll go up 1 mil. Slow it down. There we go with that. Now it's actually very square. And now I can actually feel how it is. So that's where we want it. So now to set that to your home, you go back out, 0 equals, that equals 0, hit enter, and then enter again to rise. That is now home. Alright, so we got that done. So it did seem that because this was coming up over the small, not really much of a lip there, but it did seem to be causing somewhat of an effect. Because the glass is quite a little seated too. But yeah, well, so that's a lot better now. And then let's take a look at this. That back. That's one off. Alright. Pull one of those off. So, yeah, it's still a bit tacky. So it hasn't really said anything. And you can see here where it's a bit folded. It could have been where around my finger. But in general, most of them aren't too bad, but there is a bit of discrepancies in there. So that one there is a nice clean one. So it looks like, obviously, because the left side was a bit out, it didn't quite work as well. Might flick them upside down and do a little bit more curing, just to give everywhere a bit of a go at the light. It gets a bit stuck to the plate, which is a bit annoying. Maybe I didn't wash it enough. It's quite possible. We'll give it another 6-minute run or something like that. But there we go. Alright, so we'll chuck that back on for another 6 minutes. But apart from that, that's it. My review on this, look, it seems good, it's quick, it's obviously detailed. However, there's still a few things that I was quite disappointed, as I said, that it didn't naturally come with. So the fact that the mounts are not viable for this in the wash and cure was a bit of a bugbear for me. Like, I don't see the point in releasing something if you're not going to continue it on. So to have these two mounts now no longer viable for what seems to be their new series machines, yet they're selling them as a package, seems to be quite of a deterrence for me. Obviously I already had it, so it wasn't so bad, but now you either have to take you basically have no choice, taking the models off the build plate or washing it with the build plate dropped in. And the issue I have with that is because on some of my models, they're that fine that I need it to actually harden up a little bit before I can take it off, because otherwise the softness causes an effect that I don't want, or it might bend something or it breaks. So I prefer to cure it before, I prefer to wash it and give it a small amount of curing in just the light before I actually take it off the build plate. So for me to not just be able to chuck it all in and be able to mount it is an issue. Lack of fans is probably another bit of an issue for me. I like the fact that on the Photon, it had 2 fans in it. Yeah, it could be a bit stinky sometimes, but at least it was exhausting, and you really shouldn't have these in a closed off environment anyway. Apart from that, there's nothing really much different. Like, the actual screen itself is exactly the same. So all the settings are in the same, all your movement, your detections are the same. Yeah, okay, it doesn't come in a big case, and you've got this now, which isn't too bad unless you had it in a shroud or something like that where the door was a bit easier. I like the sensors, so if you do open it, it stops. Obviously the doors didn't have that. But yeah, apart from that, for its money, I'd say it's definitely worth it, but definitely a little bit more work to go.